Hello everybody. I just wanted to do a quick project really quick. A friend of mine asked me to do a pour for kind of a really sentimental reason. So this is kind of a special thing to me that she even considered asking us to do that. And so I'm just going to go ahead and treat it like a vase pour. We had some difficulty finding the right vase, so I actually painted over a vase, and it has a lid, and this is the part that I'm not exactly sure how it's going to turn out. What she's going for is a combination of purples, and in order to try to get the right color combination, I'm going to throw in some copper and a little bit of white. So I'm really hoping it's going to turn out okay. What I'm going to try to do is layer the paint the same in this cup as I do in this cup, and do the little one over the lid. I'm going to do it as a straight pour because my hope is that it will create some really distinct small lines that will kind of go together. But I have to be really careful to not use too much white, because white tends to take over. So I'm going to do my best to mix the paint in the frame, but I have the paint mixed with a glue-based pouring medium because it will adhere very well to the jar. I am nervous because I want this to turn out the right way. So I'm trying to layer the copper kind of in between the dark purples so it will mute it a little bit. I might have used a little bit too much right there. And I think we will, this color is kind of transparent, so I'm going to put it next to the copper. So the colors we're using are titanium white, dioxazine purple, copper. This one is Liquitex. This one is Artist Loft. This one is Artist Loft. This one we just added is Prism Violet by Liquitex, and this is actually violet, and this is dioxazine purple. The dioxazine purple is Liquitex. The violet is actually the Hobby Lobby brand, Master's Touch, and then this is deep violet. So vase pours are generally a lot of fun. I always do them over a canvas because in most cases you get a really cool painting. So this may be too much purple in one spot, which I've done before, and the painting was pretty, but it was definitely a lot of purple. The thing that concerns me is the shape of the face. So usually when you start painting, the paint will continue to pour, and it'll continue to drip down the side. I think what we might do is the lid first, because this may be too much paint for the lid, and that way if we have any excess we can put it over the canvas. I actually think we have plenty for the lid right now, but a lot of the vase pours I've been doing lately, I've just been kind of doing clean pours where I just pour it right on the vase and let it kind of go down in color blocks. But I'm kind of afraid to do that in this instance because I don't want it to become too color concentrated in one spot. So I think this is about 4 ounces of paint. I don't want to have too little, but I also don't want to have too much. So, and the canvas we're pouring over is a 10 by 10 prepared canvas. I always spray the back with a little bit of water to tighten it up a little bit. And I realize I'm completely pouring out of the frame again. I have to get a little bit better at that. I'm not great about staying in the video frame. I notice when I go to edit videos that I'm doing stuff way over here to not knock over what I'm doing, and it can't be seen. So that's always good. So I think we're gonna make this one our last one. I probably have way too much paint, and that might be way too much copper. So, but copper mixes really well with purple. And this prism violet and the deep violet dry darker than they look in this cup. So while it might look kind of like a pink and fuchsia, it will dry a little bit darker. So I'm a little nervous. So let's see. Let's do the lid first. I have a stand over here that you guys can't really see. I normally do this over a cup, but I can't see that going very well. Well, it might be all right. So ideally, what makes me nervous is the top. And you can see how this leans to one side no matter what you do, which is kind of going to impact how the paint dries. But we're going to try to see how it does. The difficulty to me is to get the lid to match the vase. But it might be all right. That's going to continue to drip. And now we have some backup if we have to add it to the vase later. I just want to make sure it has enough where it's going to naturally go down those sides. I think it will. The bad thing is I'm going to go and put a different cup right on top of that. I'm going to move this guy out of the way, and he'll continue to drip. And it's going to kind of mess up our design a little bit, but it'll be all right. I want this to stay as straight as possible. I kind of think we're going to start with this because a lot of this paint will end up getting washed down anyway. And this has a little lip. Looks pretty, right? All that'll go away in a minute, but we'll just let. Looks like there's silicone in there because of one of the metallic colors, but okay, here we go. So far, I think it's going to be really pretty. On the sides over here, I'm trying to help it so that it kind of completes on the lid. Okay, I'm just going to go really slow. Kind of moving around because it seems to be leaning a little bit to one side, and I want to make sure we're not losing paint. One thing about this type of art is it really messes with you when you have control issues and you want to control the outcome, because it ultimately is probably going to do whatever it really wants, although you do have a little bit to do with the process. It looks like we got just the right balance of white. You can see where the white is coming out in the bottom, which makes me a little bit nervous because the white has a tendency to take over. So I'm going to kind of deliberately move the cup around so if the white comes out, it doesn't all come out in the same spot. Because she wants purple, not white. So I'm going to let it continue to drip for just a little bit. I know the bottom looks a little crazy. I mostly just put this here so any excess paint can go to the corners, and I'm going to do that on the other side, although we have plenty of paint to tilt this canvas after it's all done. I am a little concerned about this big white spot here, but I think it's honestly going to give it a little bit of depth. Vase pours are a lot of fun. I did one, I should have brought it over here so I could show you guys. Did a Christmas gift vase, and so I did a painting, of course, tilted underneath it, and I resined it, I think, day before yesterday. I'm going to try to get this down here so it has a way to connect with where it's dripping. You guys can't really see that, but this little ledge down here is having a little bit of trouble getting covered. I think it ultimately will cover, but I'm just trying to get our paint from down here to help that paint that's falling have a way to connect with it. And sometimes when you pick up the vase and then you tilt the canvas, the painting looks kind of like a twist knot. It's kind of cool looking. I don't really like to help the paint, but sometimes it needs a little help. Most of the time the vase just naturally leans to another side because it's hard to get it perfectly straight. I'm very carefully going to grab it. It has a lot of paint on the top that kind of still needs to drip down. So I'm going to very carefully drip it this way. I'm nervous about how much of it is white. I'm also going to tilt that this way a little bit. And I'm going to tilt this just a little bit this way. Again, I'm a little nervous about how much white is there. I think she will be okay with that. Just trying to balance it out a little bit. It's honestly, it looks like it's going to be really beautiful. We're losing a whole lot of it off the side here. I need to remember before I tilt anything to torch those bubbles out. Sorry, some of that's probably not perfectly in the frame. You probably can't see it very well, but I think it's going to be pretty. There's one little globby piece right here that I kind of want to help. Might have made it worse. it'll be fine, I think. It'll add some character. It's going to continue to move anyway. This should dry really beautiful. I hope she likes it. Now I'm going to very carefully move this so it can continue to dry. The problem is, and I know you can't see this, is there's a whole bunch of it not covered on this side. So I'm trying to address that the best I can without touching it. And I feel like I'm like putting it right in everybody's face. But I really feel like the only way to help it is to give it some paint so it'll continue to run. Because it will continue to drip, so. And I always finish these with resin. I got paint on my shirt, but that's all right. That's why you change clothes when you do stuff like this. I finish them with resin and it helps them have a beautiful shine. Sometimes the colors will dry really muted and you're thinking, what happened to the color? So I'm very gently going to take it off of my hand and put it on a little stand that my precious husband made me, because that will help it have a chance to dry somewhat evenly. And unfortunately we lost our circle because of what we did with the lid. The circle kind of works. But the vase will continue to ooze a little, probably for several more minutes. So we'll let it do its thing. You want to try to keep them as even as possible, but they're not always going to be perfect. Now, this is kind of a mess, but it will still turn into something beautiful, and I almost forgot to torch it again. I don't know where my torch is. Hang with me. Oh, there it is. My torch is very dirty, so do your best not to judge me. I'm just torching the bubbles out. Normally with these that have no silicone, I try to avoid cells. Sometimes with metallic paint you get cells anyway. But if you torch them after, you almost always get cells because those bubbles pop and create those spots. Since I was messing with it so much, there's already all these drips that were dripping off of my gloves. So it may be kind of unavoidable at this point, but what I am concerned about is that the lid is not holding its paint on the top. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about. You see the lid? So the lid may have to have a do-over. And I'm not really sure why it's not holding it, because the paint was pretty thick. But if that is the only issue we have, I can always redo the lid. I just have to remember how I layered my paints. So I'm going to try to give it a little bit more action here. This is one of the delightful things about doing these. As you can see, when things don't go exactly as planned, and that is a thing. So we're going to turn the white upside down in the cup that we used, and I'm going to touch up the edges of this because it is needing a little attention on the sides, and I might pour over it again. Other than that, Seems to be going okay. I'm just gonna put another quick layer of those paints in this cup and see what we can accomplish to fix our little lid. I think it's just having a hard time holding on to the paint because of the knobby top. But I'm just hoping that the rest of the vase does not do that. Because if it does, that would really hurt my feelings. Trying to avoid having too much white on the top of this because I want it to match the jar at least fairly well. I know it's not going to be perfect, but let's see. Most of that is going to flow off of there, so see how pretty the copper is with the purple? It just gives it a little bit of depth. It also makes it kind of darkens the purple so it looks a little bit less blue and pink. Kind of adds just the right amount of brown without being brown. Hopefully that rescued our lid. Still looks pretty. And it kind of goes with the white that came out on the vase. So let's tilt this and see how this goes. So generally you're going to want to not tip too fast. So you kind of want to go slowly, corner to corner, and bring it back to the center before you go to the next corner. The other thing that you can do, so you don't want to waste paint and you don't want to over tilt, is grab some of this beautiful stuff that's already on the side and cover your corners with it. I know I'm just making a big mess because, I mean, I already have like no pattern at this point, so not that you really get to have a pattern with this kind of, well, you do, like, you do and you don't. Whew. So you can also use your paint that falls off to touch up your edges so that your edges are not white. And I have those big thumbtacks in the back, which makes this a lot easier to handle from behind without touching the edges. It's just that I have so much paint on my hands at this point. I'm trying to be really quiet because I'm the only one awake. Even my dogs are snoring. Okay, I'm trying to not lose this copper part right here. I'm not sure how well you can see that. It's really pretty, and since everything is so purple everywhere else, I kind of like the difference, but we might still lose it. If I have to lose anything, I'd rather lose some of these drippy things like that. That's where the copper is too, so we might just keep the drippies. And then I just go around here and cover up the edges. Oh, I just got purple all over the back of my canvas after I taped it up, so it would not look like that on the back. That's okay. Then I just kind of flip it around and check. I try to run either a popsicle stick or a gloved finger and get the paint drippings from the bottom, because they'll continue to pull on the weight of the canvas with the drippy. And sometimes, oh, did you see what I just did there? I don't know how people are so neat when they do this. Some people I watch have no mess, and they don't have paint everywhere, and their workspace is so neat. Mine looks like a flippin' disaster. Okay, just one spot there. Okay, so we will leave this. Look at all the paint we have there. Sad. Looks like a casualty, like a needless casualty of war, but it turned out pretty. Those purples will darken, which will cause the white and the copper to be a little bit more distinct. And so anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you like and subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment. Hopefully gonna do a lot more videos in the coming year, trying to be a little bit more intentional about those. Sometimes, even if there's other things going on in here, I try to maybe at least do a hyperlapse video and post it to Facebook or Instagram. Because I realize action shots of art are always kind of intriguing to watch. And again, I really appreciate the support and appreciate you watching, and have a great day.